Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of France Building Services. France is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from 1.5 million to more than 20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC in this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you.
Hey, so last week, or in the last episode, I dove into some content on increasing your luck, and it came from something written by someone that goes by the handle of Polymath Investor called the Luck Field Manual, and the idea is that there's a more systematic way to increase your luck or your chances of success or winning at various things in life, being successful, and really the I guess the theory behind this is that luck is not necessarily just randomly. It's not that there's fate just falling on certain people and not others as a general rule, and it's something that people are lucky people, and in particular I'm thinking about it in a business context, are people who have put themselves in positions to capitalize on opportunities that come their way. And what this particular manual tries to do is distill those down into some certain core actions or mindsets or principles that can help you increase what they call your luck surface area. So if luck, or we'll call it opportunity, is like rain falling, the larger of a bucket you have, or the wider of a bucket you have, the more surface area, the more rain you're going to collect. And so, and the meta principle is sort of this: is luck it's a cumulative advantage that you build over time. So the lucky person isn't a passive beneficiary of fate, but there's somebody who architects a system in their life that comes into contact with opportunities more regularly and is ready to capture those. And so what they say, the meta principle here, is that in an uncertain environment, which is life, the shape of your exposure matters more than your predictions. So the idea is that increasing the surface area across which opportunities can find you will increase the amount of opportunities you end up having in life, which is going to increase your chance of success in various things related to your business, your career, finances, that sort of thing. So we covered a few components of this in the last episode, and I want to go on to finish out some other things that he mentions. Again, I'm not thoroughly going through each one of these, but just hitting some of the highlights that I think are relevant to business owners in particular, and that's kind of what I have in mind as I think about this. So moving on to the second part of this. So there's four more parts here that we'll go through. So this next one is protecting your downside, as there's this whole category of actions or mindsets related to this. So, and this is certainly important, and one of these is never risk total ruin. So we want to avoid bets. We want to avoid putting all of our chips in on one thing that could ruin us. And you think about this in the business world, like, it obviously makes sense. We don't want to go up to the roulette wheel of life and bet everything on the number, 20. And hope that it hits, knowing that if we lose everything. And so what we would like to do is, as we think about the risk rewards and things, we would love to minimize or cap those risk exposures, and particularly the worst case scenarios. And this is just a good principle as you think about opportunities, think about things that you might do, pursue in your company, or maybe changes or a new idea or opportunity you might pursue. Think about it in terms of, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen? And minimizing those worst case scenarios so that you're not risking everything on one possible opportunity. And so, this goes into another one that's very similar. They say to use the barbell strategy. And the idea is that a stable core, meaning like a core, we'll translate this into business. So a stable core, meaning a stable business, like a core of what you do, where your income comes from. So sort of where the goose that lays the golden egg, as it were, is there's a stable core there. And then we can tinker with high upside experiments. So putting most of our resources into safe, reliable positions, but a small portion into bigger, bolder bets, as it were. Now again, not stuff that will sink you, but things that have a high upside. And man, this is so true. And I think this, as you focus on our core in our companies, and in particular, my audience is mostly janitorial business owners. There's a certain core business that we all sort of fundamentally can see this, that we rely upon, that it's our bread and butter. But then we can experiment with the other opportunities, maybe that are closely related or not as closely related, but making sure we keep the core intact, and then tinker with some of these ideas that are on the periphery. And then lastly, is related to protecting our downside, is we need to eliminate things, if at all possible, that make us fragile. And he lists several things here in this manual, but one that seems particularly relevant to me is debt. And so the more debt you have, the more your risk exposure is. If something, things fall apart financially, income dries up a little bit, debt really exposes you. And so I'm a fan of, minimal debt. I mean, we do use debt for various things, but debt does increase your risk. And when the risk or your fragility, I guess, financially, and when that risk is a bit higher, and when you're a bit more fragile because of debt, you're less likely and not able to latch on to opportunities that might have some risk associated with them. So, you only have so much risk you can take, as it were, particularly financially. There's only so many dollars. And so if we're tied up in one place, it's going to eliminate the ability to be able to invest in other things that have some level of risk to them. And so working to minimize debt and have more cash on hand is a way to increase or open up the doors to opportunity, and you're not shackled by that debt. So the next category of topics here on increasing our luck surface area is being flexible. And one of the characteristics here, or things to cultivate in your life, is just keeping slack in your life. And this is a really good principle just across the board as you think about your life as a whole and the balance in your life, because you obviously have a career that you're working on, but most of you probably have a family and other relationships and maybe commitments outside of work and friends and church, or extended family. Could be a whole host of things, and we just want to make sure that we leave margin in our life. This is healthy, number one, but it's in those areas of margin that we often find new opportunities. And this could be, for me, one of those things is if I'm constantly busy doing tasks, I don't have time to think and reflect and be curious about new ideas and explore things. So if I'm so compressed for time because I have filled up all of my time slots with activities that I need to do, I don't have any slack in my life to be able to accommodate opportunities that might come my way. And honestly, I'll be so busy that I won't even see them. And so we want to, if possible, maintain this margin in our life on an ongoing basis. And one of the things that goes along with this, that makes this, I guess you could say it's the other side of the coin here, is prefer short-term commitments over long-term commitments. And the idea here is that you may have periods of time where you don't have a lot of slack, but hopefully you've set up your life in such a way that, or in your career in particular, that these commitments are more short-term. So I may have a window or a season here where, man, for the next 6 months, things are going to be super busy, or cash is going to be really tight for the next 6 months. And I'm not really going to be able to pounce on any opportunities in the next 6 months. But not being shackled for years with with that being the case in your life. And so just monitoring and being careful of the things you're committing to and for the time frames, whether it's contracts that you're involved in or lease agreements or whatever. We want to be careful, and this allows us to exit. And let's say it's even a new opportunity that you pounce on and you think, man, this is a good opportunity here. Well, ideally you want that to have some short-term, the ability to get out of this thing in the short term. So instead of going all in on, I've thought about this as I think about investing in some real estate on the side, just as a mechanism for doing things with cash that are wise. I thought about investing, in apartments or something like that. And it's a huge long-term commitment that would tie up a bunch of cash for me. And honestly, it's just not, I don't want to lock myself up in such a long-term commitment there. So at least for now, because I don't have just millions of dollars sitting around, my investments or my commitments into trying to make some money in some other things or invest in other things are going to be a little bit more short term. And that it keeps some freedom and flexibility in my life to be able to go after other opportunities when they arise. And that leads us, speaking of finding other opportunities when they arrive, is noticing opportunities. So just a couple of things here is it's easy to get caught in certain habits in life where we just repeatedly do the same thing. We drive the same way to work. We talk to the same people. We keep the same schedule. We interact with, we go to the same functions. And some of us, maybe our social networks are small and we go home at night and we watch TV and we decompress. And we're just not exposing ourselves to new environments. And we're all creatures of habit, and this certainly happens as you get older. As you change is a little bit harder. It's not as welcome. It's a little bit more uncomfortable. And however, breaking up your environments, your routes, your social encounters will put you into contact with new people, new places. I mean, even for me, driving down streets I've never driven down before, it sounds silly, but are ways for me to explore the community that I live in and make me see things that I haven't seen before, and which creates more, I guess, pegs in my mind to be able to hang ideas on. So there's more shelf space in my head the more I expose myself to different environments. And honestly, like novel contexts, new contexts, they're often the intersection for new opportunities. And then I think a characteristic of people who find themselves being successful, they have what they call in this a you never know mindset. Just this willingness to be like, why not? Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a go. And I've always appreciated my grandmother, my grandparents really, and my grandmother in particular, who started our company. She always had this mindset, like, why not? Let's give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? We'll lose some money. Okay, we'll make more money. And my parents, I think, have had that in some measure as well. And this, again, tied to various routines that are varying your routines, just allows you to come into contact with new things and experience new things that, again, increase that luck surface area and put us into contact with opportunities we might not have had otherwise. Now, from a mindset standpoint, there's a couple of things that I think, quote unquote, lucky people have. And one of these is more of an optimistic mindset. So even in the midst of setbacks, and setbacks are inevitable, it's not that lucky people don't have setbacks and unlucky people are constantly having setbacks. No, it's how those setbacks are approached. I mean, anyone who's been successful in any venture, any business venture, for instance, will testify to it was never, or it was not always easy. And there was lots of trial and error. There were setbacks. There were lost customers. There were, financial strain. There was stress. There was, maybe I should shut this down. But people who seem to push through and find success, and maybe multiple successes, are often able to take these setbacks and turn them into opportunities, or at least look for the silver lining. Like, hey, okay, this failed, but we did learn ABC, and maybe we can take ABC and apply it somewhere else. And I think it's a helpful way to think through our setbacks, because setbacks often we've tried to do something that reality has said, hey, you can't do it like that. And so we bump up against that, but maybe we learn why that was the case. And that puts us in a better position going forward. Instead of, man, things just never go my way. Think of, this went wrong, but why did it go wrong? And what could we change next time? And then lastly, we'll end on this here, is the idea that persistence over the long haul is the thing that will generate success in the long term. And, there's a proverb, I don't know where in the Proverbs that it is, that it talks about wealth gained hastily will ruin someone, basically, or it will flee away. And so the idea, if we're chasing things like trying to find that next big hit, that big quick opportunity, that thing that's going to make us successful overnight, hitting that lottery, it is these one-time hits, or this like, hey, I'm really good at this and I'm going to put all in on this, those aren't as much of a predictor as opposed to sustained effort over a long period of time, grinding away at something and having this cumulative effect over time of this surface area building, our skill sets building, our knowledge building, and then that starts to bear fruit over time. And, this is true. I mean, you think about even moral virtue. I've got 6 kids, and so I'm raising my kids and thinking about helping train them to be virtuous adults. That virtue is really long obedience in the same direction. It's doing what is right. It's living by what is moral truth, and continuing to discipline yourself to do those things that are virtuous, start to build virtuous character over time. And then we look at somebody in the long run and be like, man, that guy is, I wish I could be like that. Well, when we look at successful people the same way, gosh, I wish I had that success. Well, often it's just persistence over a long period of time. It's grit to stick with things and keep grinding away over time, being consistent in the habits that generate this success or generate that character that we're looking for in our lives. So we'll wrap it up there. You can go to this. The website is polymathinvestor.com. They have all kinds of weird things that they talk about on there. And this was just particularly intriguing. And there's so many touch points to business and also life that I thought my audience would enjoy this. So I hope you found that this is helpful. Maybe we'll dive into something a bit more janitorial specific in the next few episodes. But in the meantime, go out there, increase your luck surface area, and I hope you knock out some new opportunities.
If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to EliteBSC.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at EliteBSC.com/mastermind.